Okay, welcome and hello everybody to today's International ARC webinar. We have more than 30 attendees from all over the world, and I'm very happy to say hello to you all. My name is Stephanie Hase from arcplan, and I'm very happy to present today's topic, the TraceMiner, from our partner SYNAXUS, a tool to document and analyze existing arcplan applications. TraceMiner is developed by our partner SYNAXUS, and you will get all the details of this tool from our today's presenter, Mr. Steve Brischke. He's from SYNAXUS. And yes, Steve, I just hand over to you.
Thank you very much for your nice introduction. And also a warm welcome from my side. My name is Steve Brischke from SYNAXUS, and where I'm responsible for quality assurance and supporting the pre-sales department. And today I would like to talk to you about how to easily succeed in documenting and analyzing arcplan enterprise applications. Some of you might know our former product, the SYNAXUS Trace, which evolved into this tool, the TraceMiner. The renaming is based on a more methodical approach we chose, focusing on documentation purposes. And last but not least, we didn't want to create any confusion with arcplan's own trace module. So my topics today are the current situation, what are the difficulties when developing with arcplan, followed by our methodology, our approach to conquer these problems. Then I will will show you our TraceMiner and program features. After that, I will give you a short roadmap with the release planning and where the journey is going. And after that, I'm going to conclude everything and answer your questions. But first, let's start with the current situation and see which difficulties developers have to face when implementing arcplan. arcplan bases on references and interactions between objects, and arcplan developers are faced with these across different layers. So usually data objects are placed on layers 1 to 3 and linked to your reports to hold data or functionalities that are shown and executed in your reports. And often this is also done across multiple documents. So you have central documents holding framework-related functionality like authentication, translation modules, and so on, or you provide data for several documents in these documents. And also you can link more than one data source inside a project, like relational databases, ERP systems, or OLAP cubes. And all these sources could provide multiple documents and objects. So the main question is, how does arcplan help us to cope with these complex structures? So arcplan has some default functions to display dependencies. We have, for example, the go-to functionality. You can open your formula window and click on an object and click the go-to button, and you'll jump right to the desired object. But the problem is it's not easy to investigate this object further. You have to reopen the formula window to see the formula's content or the database information behind it. So wouldn't it be better to see the object properties at a glimpse? There's a similar situation with the dependencies. You can follow your object dependency throughout an application, but there's not a global view on all dependencies. And again, you have to open the formula window or the database properties to get more information on the object in focus. So here's again the question, why don't you see everything on one screen? And with the connections, you have the options to see the connection arrows between the objects to see where the data comes from, or some details about the type of connection. But again, you have to open the formula window or other windows to investigate this objects further. So, and let's have a little digression to documentation. A developer is pushed by the quality department to write documentations. This is often done on multiple tools like Word, PowerPoint, Excel sheets, or other tools. And the quality department has to gather all this information from the multiple sources, fragmented throughout your network infrastructure, and have to create and maintain it, everything manually. But a developer has the option to write comments into arcplan. So the question is, why should a developer use more than one tool for documentation purposes? Yeah. So in conclusion, we can say we have very complex structures while developing arcplan enterprise applications. We have local and global dependencies between objects and documents across many layers. We have complex references nested in formulas, which makes it hard to get the overview and maintain your application. There are hardly any formal restrictions on developing arcplan, and we missed the documentation approach to get a gapless documentation for your project. We have some helpful functions and search options in arcplan implemented, but those aren't very holistic and sustainable. So this results into poor transparency for these complex application structures. You have to invest time and money to analyze and maintain your projects, and the documentation is scattered all over the place. You have fragmented documentation that you need to gather together to get a gapless and sustainable documentation. So the question is, how did we solve this and how do we visualize these complex structures plus having a documentation approach at hand? The first step is to categorize the documents into encapsulated modules, which we call the encapsulated module architecture, or EMA. We start with global central documents having omnipresent functions like the print function, translation functionalities, logins, and so on, and group those into global central documents. After that, we have the local central documents, which hold data or functions for encapsulated fields of your application. And at the viewer side or the user side, we have the reports visible to them. So the reason why we recommend this architectural standard is we have performance issues. We want to structure our application from a top level on document level. It's easier to maintain those structured applications, and we can have distributed development. And breaking it down to objects, we have the generic type semantic, which categorizes all objects in arcplan into 4 different classes. First, we have objects containing database information, indicated by this orange color scheme and having the database icon. We have objects containing formulas, the green ones with the formula icon. We have objects with manual inputs, where you can have manually created, like with the copy functionality or text input, and we have objects containing images. So this categorization gives us a generic approach that allows us to visualize the complex structures with a minimum amount of colors. You only have to memorize those 4 colors. The icons help you understanding which color is for which content type. And we have a maximum in contrast in connection with good readability with this color scheme. So breaking it down to single object, we have every object can be clearly expressed via its padding, which is the primary content type, and we have the outline, which is the secondary content type. So every object can have more than one object type, and it's all added with the well-known arcplan objects. So and this results into this matrix, which with the 10 reasonable combinations which we support. On the matrix trace, you can see the objects that only have one content type, and besides this, we have the, for example, the object type, which is a formula object with additional database information. And this is a picture taken from our daily work. You can clearly see the result of the color coding. At one view, you can see which information is behind each object. So the green ones are clearly identified by the as a formula object. The orange ones are database objects, and you see it at first look. This is not a restrictive color scheme. You can, of course, enhance it with your own rules, like it's in the right picture. You see that the objects with the black frame are marked as output parameters. So this is a good example on how the color coding works. It's easy to remember. You only have to memorize these 4 colors. You can fastly recognize the object content types. And all the information and the approach leads to the so-called trace map. The trace map clearly visualizes all the interactions between objects on a global level. So for example, if we see the object 2155, we got the object ID, we got the database icon and color scheme indicating that it's a database object with also manual input as a secondary type. And we have the well-known arcplan symbol indicating that it's a table. The black heading and the focus icon indicates that this one is in focus. And we want to have all the ingoing and outgoing references for this object. And again, we use the encapsulated module architecture to categorize the trace map so you never lose your overview of your application. And as we will see later, we can also see at this view the detailed information and the formula content and DB connection when we click on one of these icons. Another part of the application is the trace flow. It visualizes the interactions between documents in accordance to the EMA. So you have on the left-hand side, you got the user interfaces, for example, connected with the local and global central documents, seeing which references are in which direction. And of course, you can see detailed information on the objects involved and also enhance our color coding and the arcplan symbol. So you see on one view all the connections on a global level, having detailed information at hand. And this our generic object architecture we implemented. This consists of the two instruments. We have the trace map and the trace flow. The trace map on the document level and object level, and the trace flow on a more global abstraction level. So, and these two consist of our generic type semantic we just saw, and the encapsulated module architecture I just presented to you. Let's talk about the documentation approach. Our idea of creating and sharing documentation for your application is to enhance your trace maps with individual texts and the arcplan content of the event comments, so the developer can write the information right into arcplan and is gathered by the TraceMiner. You can structure your application with the TraceMiner with so-called bookmarks, as you know from the content of documentation of Microsoft Word documents, for example. And you can export and print documentations to various formats like PDF and editable Word documents, and of course the HTML format, which is used to provide your documentation to other team members, having the opportunity to export your documentation directly to a web folder where every team member can access it and see what the status of the documentation is. So now let's see how we implemented the approach, and let's take a sneak peek into the product version 2.5, which is already in development status and going through the quality process. So let's see how we did this. The TraceMiner is subdivided into 3 major modules. We have the projects module to handle all your projects, more than one. Everything is imported into a database. We have the trace maps. I just showed you. I will show you more in a second. And we have a powerful search module with various search options. But first, let's start with the projects, and I will just skip to the TraceMiner and give you an idea on what we did. So this is the overview over the project. On the left-hand side, you see the project detail. On the bottom, there's the list of projects I already imported. By clicking on one project, it is loaded into memory, so everything is in memory, and the analysis are very fast and quick. And you see meta information about the objects on the upper left side. So you got the name. Oh, excuse me, I see it's in German. So let's change the language to English. There you see the options we implemented. We have the formula language can be interpreted into German and English. You get the program language, German and English. The default web folder I just mentioned, where you can deploy your HTML files. We have the color semantic, it's highly customizable. You can just create new ones and adopt your own color coding. We got these KPIs, I will talk about that later. And we have the opportunity to have external applications. And this is the biggest change from 2 to 2.5. We can have external reports. So you can create your own reports. It works on the Microsoft SQL Server database. And you can just open it inside the TraceMiner. So you can open an instance from arcplan and integrate your reports into the TraceMiner. So here we have one report that is shipped for free. You can see all the database connections between documents and the database objects, and you can see more detailed information on the connection. On the bottom you see some details about the documents and the objects that use the documents. The idea is having all the objects, that all the documents on the left-hand side have 3, for example, in this example, have 3 access to the highlighted object on the top. And you have the detailed information on the objects and documents which access these objects. So let's step back to the TraceMiner itself. As I mentioned, on the left-hand side, you see all the information on the project. On the right-hand side, we have the information about all our documents that are imported into our project. We have the categories for our encapsulated module architecture on the right top side. So we have the user interface, local central documents, and global central documents given by default. And we can also enhance this by our own categories we want to create and structure our project any way we want. So here you see, for example, the filtering option of the new and change document status. In this, for example, you can see what is happening with my project, which documents are changed, which need to be re-imported, which of my objects are new and should be imported again. So you have always a clear view over your project and its status. But let's just import and see how fast the import really is. So we chose new. We choose, for example, the sales demo of arcplan. And now it's just created. We can change the interpretation of the formula language. We can give a color coding or select none. We can add additional comments and save the project. So now we see on the right-hand side everything is new. So we just select all and click on import. Now everything is imported into our database. The structure is analyzed and all references are put into our structure. So now let's see what we have here. We got the KPI size content ratio, indicating the relation between the amount of objects and the size of the file. So here is quite reasonable. It's the database, so having much information in a few objects is very reasonable. But for example, if you have a report, for example, having a big KPI size content ratio, there might be something going wrong. So here again, you have the opportunity of starting the document right in the TraceMiner. It starts arcplan and integrates it into the TraceMiner. This is done quite convenient because now you have a completely running arcplan designer inside the TraceMiner. So as I said before, why should a developer use more than one tool? You have everything integrated into the TraceMiner right now. So you also can set a starting document. This is used in the search function. If you have an initial document or a starting document that needs to be started first, then this is done prior to choosing your the desired object or document, because you want to avoid any errors. And that's about the project part of the TraceMiner. So let's wrap it up. You got the support through our application-specific KPIs. You got the categorization of documents following our EMA. You can create and manage own categories. We got the accelerated import. You can selectively import your arcplan documents, so you don't have to import everything over and over again. You can see the status of your documents on one screen, see if it's changed, deleted, updated, or unchanged. And you have many filtering options in your list of documents. And of course, you have the project-specific color semantics, so you can change your colors with every project. Now let's step to the trace maps, the core of our application. So the purpose of our trace maps is to visualize the references between objects with a dedicated color semantics. You can save as many and create as many trace map scenarios as you like. You can structure them, your application, any way you want. You can enhance everything with individual text in the RTF format. And you can print everything into one continuous documentation, including your structure, the enriched bookmarks with the text, and your trace maps, of course. So let's take a look into the trace maps. So let's take this project I just prepared. So this is the cockpit we developed, and I started a documentation on this. So I structured the application with the main menu and the two management parts we have. And on the project overview, I have a short description of the main menu, and this is the central object, the object 174. And as you can clearly see, it's a database object having also formula content. So in the trace map, you see everything I just explained before, and you have the incoming and outgoing references, and you see all the detailed information on the bottom. So besides the information tab we just saw, where the information can be done in, where text can be put in, pictures, bullet points, tables, whatever you can imagine. By clicking on the icon itself, you got the information on that it's a database object, getting its information from the internal database with the table scorecard structure and the columns underneath. So, and switching to the formula tab, you can see the formula that is right inside this object. And this can be done for every object in focus. You can also have the non-focused ones, and if you want to further investigate them, you can set them into focus and see which information is coming into and out of these objects. So now we got 248 in focus and see all the information and references inside the object. We can skip through our application. So if you want to investigate more what is object 174, you just say go to object and we focus it. So that's the way how you can dig into your application and see how deep the rabbit hole really is. If you have a very large structure, you also have the opportunity to search for keywords. It's a full text search on the RTF documents and the bookmarks. So for instance, I can search for all my search for the term time and see all the information I have for the timeline, the time option, and the trend lines, for example. So having set up having set up my structure on the left-hand side, added all my information in the information tab, having all my trace maps showing my references, I now have the opportunity to export everything. So I have the options to export to a PDF or editable Word documents and also to the HTML. We just export it to the PDF, so it's sxcockpit_webinar, for example. And we say that now every information is gathered together right into a template that you can customize. We have a TraceMiner template for, of course, and there you go with the finished documentation. So you can customize the title page, followed by the project details. We have the project files with all the information in it, and we have the table of content containing all the information, all the structure we just created in the trace map. And here you see all the information. For example, here's the in the overview part the scene trace map with the additional information again. And this is done for every bookmark. So, and that's the TraceMiner module. So we've seen this, so let's go to the search functionality. The problem is I want to find any object in arcplan. I have the opportunity to search for a name or the object number. We enhance this by having the content type as a search function. We can find obsolete references, so referenced objects that no longer exist. Of course, you can search for alphanumeric expressions. And you can also display the functions and the database references for all the objects you found. So you have a clean representation of the search results, again, as you know it from the trace map. Now let's see how this interacts. We have the opportunity to click our object and search for the usage. So the CPMS main menu object 174 is used in the listed objects underneath. So you always have the opportunity to choose a document where is this used. If you just choose all objects, you see the usage of the main menu throughout your application, or just break it down to a single object you want to search for. So you get all the information again. And these are the search functions we implemented. So you have the alphanumeric expressions, as we did, for example, a migration from the database scheme cockpit to DBO. You can search for all the information, all the select statements, for example, that consist cockpit dot. So you see there's something to do. We have the option to search for database objects, which is a special part, a special case of searching for object content type, which is this one. You also have the opportunity to choose whatever you want, and then it listed all your objects that are marked as database object primary and formula object secondary type. So you get a list of all your objects with a specific content type. And now the question is, how do you walk through these objects and their references and dependencies? So for example, we have 177 and we want to see what object 291 is. So just by double clicking it, we see the formula and in the calculation event behind object 291. Clicking 174, you get deeper and deeper and follow your references through your applications. The last search function I want to show you is the object with the obsolete references. So the red highlighted objects do not exist in your application. So you see that there are several functions and events that use objects that no longer exist. So that was the first look into the TraceMiner. Go back to the presentation. So this is a feature overview. We use the latest technologies to optimize the performance and have perfect usability. We got our encapsulated module architecture, categorizing your application on a document level. We have the trace maps, we have the trace flow. I will show you in a second. The tool is multilingual. We have the generic type semantic, having the color coding for all your objects. You can export your documentation, and having this so fast is done because we use in-memory technology. All your projects, all the information is loaded into the main memory of your computer. So you have very responsive scenarios and functionalities. We opened up. We used a SQL Server compact database, which was not accessible from outside. We migrated to the SQL Server. So now it's possible to have your own reports working on our data. So we opened up. We have an interface for you, so you can analyze all the information we put into the database, broken up into objects, references, and documents. And of course, the most important thing, the embedded arcplan application designer, so you don't have to switch the platform. So how does the TraceMiner help you to save time and reduce your costs? For maintenance purposes, for example, you have the color semantics. You can see the object content. It's easy to analyze all the your applications. You have the powerful search functionality. During project planning phase, you can manage multiple projects. You have everything on one view. You can see the status of all your documents. You can re-import them, categorize them, for example, to have departments working on one part of the application and just giving them a color coding or a category. You have the KPI, seeing how complex your application is, which also helps you in quality management. You can see all the references, trace maps. You have a structured analysis, so you can structure all the analysis, and nothing is done without thinking before. And you have the documentation, which is very important. You have the one platform. You can add documents to your structure. You can export and share your documentation and enhance it with all the information that is scattered around your network drive, for example. So now let me give you a roadmap on the release planning after always seeing these powerful features. So today was the webinar with the initial presentation of the development state of version 2.5. This will be released on April 2nd this year. And keeping up the improvement of our product, we plan to release TraceMiner 3.0 in 2015. So here's a little outlook. Our primary objective is to further develop we want to improve customer convenience and satisfaction. This is the primary objective of the development of the TraceMiner. So we have the integration into arcplan. This can be done. We can integrate all our projects as an external program into arcplan itself. We can start the TraceMiner from the application designer. We have the integration of the application designer in the TraceMiner. This will be enhanced further, so you can open several documents in the application designer and focus the objects you want to investigate. The next program module we plan is to show and edit the XML code that is behind the APD file, so you can compare documents, have some sort of versioning. And in the future, we want to write back data to arcplan, so we can reformat your objects, having the color coding transferred to the application designer. And there will be additional trace map functionalities. You will be able to focus multiple objects per column, include and exclude documents to be to have more freedom in your analysis scenarios. Selecting the objects in arcplan using TraceMiner, as I just say, and there's an upcoming tool, the trace flow, showing information on document level. And I want to give you a short look into the actual state of the trace flow functionality. So let me just open the trace flow version. So there you go. The outfit of the trace maps has changed a little bit. If you want to open a new scenario, you have the opportunity to select the trace map icon or the trace flow functionality, and there you go. You choose, for example, on the left-hand side, the user interfaces, the local and global central documents. So you follow our encapsulated module architecture and can see which information flows from one document to another. So you have these clear overview, having my reports and interface documents on the left-hand side, my local central documents in the middle, and the global ones on the right-hand side, and seeing all the information flowing between those. You can select one and see the connection, because it could be, of course, very hard to see which information is flowing where. But of course, if you want to see which information is behind this scenario, you can set them into focus and see these global documents are referenced by the shown ones. Again, on the right-hand side, you see the information about the database involved. You have the internal and the so-called CPMS database, and you have all the information on the right-hand side. And of course, you can also open these and see all the objects as we saw it in the trace map and all the additional information. So that was a sneak peek into the trace flow functionality. And now let's see what this is all about and what the TraceMiner costs. So the TraceMiner 2.0 version, the desktop license, the current pricing is 1,297 euros. The TraceMiner 2.5 will be a little bit more expensive. We have a special offer. If you buy the TraceMiner till the middle of March this year, you can upgrade to version 2.5 for free on release date, which will be the 2nd of April. And we also have individualized quality workshops on your request, so don't hesitate to contact us. So now that we've seen a lot of great stuff, let me conclude this for you. So the TraceMiner helps you to lower costs and improve the quality of your application, of your development. This is done by efficient management of multiple projects. You have the fast import, you have the structured analysis, you have the categorization following our EMA, we have the clean and easy analysis of arcplan enterprise application, a graphical representation on a global and on an object level to see where the information is flowing and where the references are coming from and where your data is coming from. You can drill down to formula level, including the syntax highlighting you know from arcplan. We have our colored representation, our object semantics. We have multiple search criteria to navigate through your application. We support the coding standards with the color schemes, and it's a fast and easy way to export individual documentations. You can structure your application via bookmarks. You can enrich your documentation with images, text, whatever you can think of, and export it into one continuous documentation. So nothing is scattered through your network drive. So everything is one place, and you can deploy your documentation with the HTML export and share it with your team partners. So the important message is that the TraceMiner is the single platform. There's no more switching between arcplan and other tools necessary. You can create and document analysis example. You've got the interactive and partly automated based documentation approach, and we have the dedicated notation a methodological approach for the notation that follows our approach with the generic object architecture. So that's about it from my side. Thank you very much for listening. I hope I could wake your interest in our product. Remember the special offer. If you order now for $12.97, you get the free update for 2.5 at release date. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them now. If you have questions later, do not hesitate to contact us. The contact information is shown on your screen. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Steve, for this vivid presentation. And yes, I'd like to open the Q&A session now. So if you have any questions, please use the Q&A tool on your WebEx desk. And I have the first question right now, which says, can I modify arcplan documents when they are opened within TraceMiner in the embedded mode?
Yes, you can. You can,
yes, you can.
Just use. You can. Yes, it's a complete application designer in the embedded mode. So you can do everything you can do with the standalone version of the application designer. Save it, modify it, you can do everything. And all the modification after saving is shown in our project tab. And you see the modification and can re-import it to have the analysis functionality that TraceMiner offers.
Okay, then I got another question through the Q&A field. Are there interactions between external reports and the TraceMiner? Is that possible?
Yes, it is. You can jump right into the so that I have to reformulate my answer. There will be. We are trying and planning to click on objects in arcplan and having the interaction with the TraceMiner. This is partly implemented and is also in testing phase. So yes, there will be interaction between the external reports and the TraceMiner.
Okay, and here's another question. Is it possible to jump from arcplan into TraceMiner?
Yes, it is. Maybe I didn't show you that, so let me start the TraceMiner again. From the search functionality, for example, you can jump into the documents you just opened. The problem is with the focusing of an object right now, but will be implemented for the next iteration. So you can say open in arcplan here, and then the embedded mode is opened, and the starting document you defined in the project tab is open first to avoid any errors, and then you jump right into the main menu, which wasn't that nice because it opens up all the time. So let's just open the CPMS data file, and you see that the CPMS data 001 APG is opened right away. So that is possible.
Okay, now I have another question here. Do you offer trainings and workshops regarding the TraceMiner and the functionality of the TraceMiner?
Yes, we have the possibility to have individualized workshops depending on the complexity of your applications. So we don't have a general offer, but you can contact us and we can talk about how we will structure these workshops, because it's your application, not ours, so you know what you need, and let's talk about it. And then we also have the opportunity to have some refund and on the licenses for the TraceMiner.
Okay, that sounds really good. So for
Yeah.
for all the attendees, we recorded this session, and you will get a copy of the recording, so you are able to follow the whole webinar again. Maybe if you couldn't make it on time and you lost the first 2 or 3 minutes, you can see the recording, review the recording from the beginning. And as Steve said, if you have any questions again during the next days or weeks, please feel free to contact us. And yeah, I just can say thank you for your attention. Thanks, Steve, for the presentation, and I hope we meet up again for the next ARC webinar. I will let you know whenever it takes place, and well, just have a good day. And bye-bye from my side.
Again, thank you very much for your attendance. Wish you a nice day. You see the contact information again on the screen. So just contact us and we will find a solution for your needs and your quality improvement. Thank you very much. Have a nice day. And bye-bye.